Chris Peaks here with Laura Chancey Lane, who was a candidate for the PSC in the last election, placed two against Chip Beaker, I believe, or was it
Um,
Jeremy?
um, yeah, no, honestly, I've had so much going on since then that I can't even remember which one
It doesn't matter.
it was.
Two sides of the same coin. Toss them up there. She actually had a very good showing, in my opinion. With the amount of votes she got, it shows that there was an active revolt that was taking place in the Republican Party and really with the state of Alabama. What the Public Service Commission was doing to the state, I believe, had no offense to the Libertarian Party, I believe they went about it the wrong way. If they would have had focused on 4 or 5 races and put money in that instead of trying to fill up and down the ballot, I believe y'all would have had a great chance to make ballot access. I believe with $100,000, you might have could have won that race. To be honest with you.
Well, I can't really question them too much about what they were doing. They were trying to focus on, I think they were really focusing on the lieutenant governor race, which had Ruth Page Nelson running against Will Ainsworth.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they didn't realize until the last, month or so that what they really should have been focusing on was the lower level races on the state ballot, So, but that's all. That's neither here nor there. I can't really. I mean, they did the best that they could with what they had to work with.
Right.
So,
I didn't want to come off that I was, criticizing them. I just
right.
It's 2020,
Right.
and
In honest, it's really funny because I had a lot of stuff going on right then too. So, and it kind of took my time away from the campaign trail. If I did not have that stuff going on and I could have gotten out to more locations and stuff, I think we probably would have busted the 20%, if not higher, so that we could have retained the ballot access for 24. And honestly, that was really my goal. That's what I wanted more than anything, because I believe people need to have choices.
Yes, because I remember I'm it's kind of a amateur historian of George Wallace, and I remember reading a quote that he said one time, and at the time when I read it, I was a teenager and I really didn't know what it meant. He said, "There's not a dime's worth of difference between the two political parties." Well, now I know exactly what he meant by that. They're both sellouts to some side. It just depends on who they're selling it out to, and
right.
Unfortunately, right now we're being sold, the Public Service Commission, they're sold out to the utility companies.
Yes, they absolutely are. They, in my opinion, they are owned lock, stock, and barrel, at least by Alabama Power, if not some of the other companies in the state. Not really sure how deep the TVA is with them, but
Well, the TVA won't, because that's federal.
Yeah.
And
right, exactly. So,
and it's just I don't even know how I'm trying to describe it, but when you're receiving all your funding from the entity that you regulate, you've already got a fox in the hen house, so to speak. If
absolutely.
Phrase for it. So, of course they're going to go along with it. And then when they pumping, millions of dollars into other accounts to make sure that they get their hand chosen people reelected,
right.
And another thing, it's a quasi independent group that answers to nobody. They don't, they do their reports to the governor. So they answer to nobody. They're not responsible for being held to any
single soul.
Right.
Yeah, from what I understand is that all of these so-called fines and stuff, they go into this, that are levied against these companies. They go into a separate account, and which pays all of the expenses and stuff for the PSC. And if there's anything left over, then it supposedly moves to the general fund in the budget. I don't know. I've also heard that
Okay.
a lot of the staff in the PSC office is actually Alabama Power lobbyists. I can't say whether that's true one way or the other, but it's all very concerning.
Well, what
And
you just
people
mentioned,
really need to, I
I'm
think
sorry.
people really need to wake up and pay attention to this stuff.
What you just mentioned a while ago was what we were going over with the hidden tax. Now, here's
Right,
here's what it exactly says. The uh, Public Service Commission, they get their funding from the utility companies for the privilege of regulating them. And
right,
they overcharge each month so that they're able to make the funds that needed to regulate them.
right,
At the end of the year, there is a huge windfall that is left over. Now, what the
right,
law says and how Twinkle Kavanaugh tries to um, skirt it, it says the legislature can um, make an authorization or more or less a request for that money. The Public Service Commission does not have to give that to them. There's not a law that says they have to turn that money back over.
Well, isn't that just fine and dandy there for them?
So what they are doing is they are now taking that money right there and they're putting it in the general fund, because you will see Twinkle Kavanaugh come out every election cycle and say, and for my last count when I was doing it last year, it would come up to $125 million. They will come out and say, I gave $10 million back to the general fund. I gave $12 million back to the general fund. I gave 13 million. Well, no, you didn't, because you
No,
can't give money back to something that you never got it from. So what they're
right.
doing is they're using this money in pet projects in North Alabama, something that 2/3 of the state will never see, for re-election purposes and to help their cronies up there. And it is a hidden tax that is putting on the state of on putting it on the entire state of Alabama.
Oh, I 100% believe that. And you know what's so funny? I mean, I don't want to go into this too much, but it's like it's not just the PSC, but that's the biggest pile of, I don't know what even to call it. I mean, it's a nasty little thing, and quite frankly, I think they need to scrap it and start over.
Well, I mean, my first question that I have is, why are they not term limited like our constitutional offices are?
Exactly, they need to be.
They're making $100,000 a year with state insurance, driving a state vehicle with a state cell phone, and they don't even go to work.
Oh no, of course they don't go to work. And they own multiple properties across the state, and some of them even outside of the state. Yeah, all of that money is being pocketed. It's in some fashion. They could call it whatever they want to call it, but basically
Tax overcharge
they are bought and paid for.
by the utility companies.
Yes.
And 2 years ago, they spent $500,000 on travel, 250,000 in Alabama, and I don't know where they were traveling to in Alabama that cost $250,000, but they spent another $250,000 going on to these little junkets out in Scottsdale, Arizona, Miami, Florida, New Orleans, Phoenix, where they will have a little meeting for a couple hours each day, and then the rest of the time they're taking a vacation. Well, guess where that's
Right.
coming from? It's coming from their funding from the funding they're
Right.
getting that you're paid for.
Well, and you know that they're not staying in like the Days Inn or Comfort
Oh,
Suites.
no,
No, they're not.
eating it
So,
makes either.
and I can't even imagine why that they would need to go out of state for those sorts of things.
Oh, I can't either. Like I asked the other day, Jeremy Oden and his chief of staff, Greg Poole, had went over to Savannah, Georgia, to look at a water main and how it worked. Well, why did you need to go to a tourist city where there are a million things for you to do for you to look at this water main that you probably spent 30 minutes on, and the rest of the day you had a vacation out on the taxpayer's dollar?
Exactly.
But that is the preacher man, so I'm sure he prayed on it. And
Oh goodness. That
yeah,
was a good one.
I'm sure he had to pray on that, and there's no, as he took our tithes and put this crown of thorn down on our heads and this hidden tax. And, and here, and I don't really, I'm not here to judge no man, but how can these people who hide behind the Bible and claim to be men of God, women of God, and sit there and then do this to the people of Alabama? Christ said to take care of the poor.
It do, you know what? I don't even get me started down that road because it's such a hypocritical thing, and they can't see it or they refuse to see it. So it's just yeah.
So if
And
you,
then they want to start stuff about our conservative principles and stuff. And I was like, you've got no principles, and you certainly have no ethics.
uh,
So,
absolutely, when we're paying the third highest utility bills in the nation, how
exactly.
conservative? I mean, and to me, here's my thing. This too, the Public Service Commission. It shouldn't be about liberal or conservative or anything like that. It should about be doing what's right. This should not be a politicized job. If
No,
that,
it should not be.
I mean, because the liberals that I know, granted, we have different ways about taking care of, the poor, but they're all about taking care of the poor. So how this should not be a politicized job at all.
No, it should not. Not in my opinion.
But I hope with the
I just don't even how would we even go about addressing that and making it a nonpartisan office? I mean, I don't think it would happen.
the way it
So
would do is through the legislature, and I can tell you that wouldn't happen because there's
yeah,
130 something legislatures that are eyeing that job and
yes,
want it. I mean, you're working one day a month for $100,000 a year.
right.
Um,
Probably well, and then you add on, all of the little freebies you're getting along the way. So
I mean, the health insurance alone has to be, you know,
oh, absolutely. And you know that there's not restrictions on all of it like they are on the average person on the street.
and the things they're doing to, circumvent. We have 29,000. You mentioned something a while ago about um, solar, and they come out and make solar like it's the unforgivable sin because someone
Exactly.
solar power on their homes. I think we have 29,000 people in the state of Alabama. They passed a tax that took away basically all the money they would save from using solar power,
Yes.
and that was for Alabama power reasons. I mean, why would you punish somebody for doing that? I wrote an article about that. So you're charging us for using the sun.
Right.
This guy, every time I call, and I believe, unlike the
And
fake news, Yellowhammer News, they won't give anybody, they won't call politicians, give them a chance to respond. I call every day and give them a chance to respond, and of course, I'm met on deaf
right.
ears.
Well, the question I have, because honestly, I didn't really look into it too much. It's like if there are these people that have solar power on their homes, are they actually feeding back into the system? And if they are, why are they not getting some sort of credit for that instead of being penalized by this so-called solar tax?
That is an excellent
It,
question.
it,
I will find out
yeah,
that.
yeah, because every other state that I've looked at, they use net metering. So if you're getting a discount on your electricity bill based on how much you're feeding back into the system, which I think is certainly fair because you're creating electricity for them to use and send out across their grid. So why shouldn't you get some kind of a credit for that?
That is an excellent question right there. I will definitely look into that right there and see, what kind of answer I can find find on that, because
Yeah.
that's uh, Yeah, I never had thought about that before.
Yeah, I mean, they cannot tell me that there's no way that they can do that, because there is, obviously, it's happening in other states. So it's kind of like they're saying, well, for the privilege of us letting you use this solar, you're going to have to pay us this. But you're also going to have to allow us to take this extra energy that you're creating, and then we're going to sell it off to these other people and make money off that too. It's just double dipping to the extreme. And like you said, it's when people have to, well, first off, when you look at the cost of installing solar systems and stuff in at your home, the upfront cost can be kind of a bit shocking.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but then when you've got to fork over another, $25 or whatever it is per month for your privilege, so to speak, yeah, that's kind of daunting. People don't want to do that. There's a reason that they want to use solar power, and whatever their reasons are, they shouldn't be, you have to excuse me, it's been a long day.
oh,
Um,
you're
they shouldn't be penalized for that at all. As a matter of
absolutely.
fact, in especially in the way things are today, and everybody's looking at the environment and stuff, it should be something that's lauded and encouraged that people do so,
According
especially with,
to Kavanaugh, the carbon
yeah,
emissions are not, that they're not harmful.
right. And
Let me read.
with all of
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
the
ahead.
horrible, that's okay, the all of the horrible stuff that we're seeing about these the coal powered plants and the coal ash storage and how it's leaking into the environment and all of the illnesses and cancers and things that it causes, you would think that they would be pushing, giving incentives or something for people to move into that direction, especially since there's this big push for everyone to move to electrical vehicles and stuff by, I forgot what year it was, but it's
Not
not too far in the future.
like just not long at all. Just a couple years. You mentioned
Right.
something about lobby, so I wanted to read this to you. It was
Uh-huh.
the article that I produced wrote a few days ago that I said that they said that she tweeted this over. Said a few days ago, I wrote an article about Twinkle Kavanaugh receiving money from EDU PAC. I didn't think much of it at the time, other than they had donated to many Democratic candidates, and Yellowhammer News hypocrisy for not reporting on this. But what else do you expect from a pig other than a grunt? I soon found out there's much more to the story. A chance phone call I received a few days after I posted this article told me I was onto something and informed me where to look. So I did. EDU PAC, or Education PAC, supports candidates that promote a strong education system in Alabama. So why would they be interested in the PSC race? Well, for starters, the chairperson of the PAC is Bill Jones. Who is Bill Jones? There is a Bill Jones listed as marketing director as marketing director, and a Bill Jones listed as senior real estate analyst for, wait for it, none other than Alabama Power. What are the
Mm-hmm.
chances that this is a coincidence? Well, to say I was speechless is an understatement. The next step was for me to locate who donated to the PAC. You'll be amazed at what I found. At what I found. The number one donor to EDU PAC is Viva Health. Of the $2.7 million they have received since 2017. 2.5 million have come from the have come from the insurance company. Things that make you go, Why is Viva Health donating to an education PAC? Well, Viva Health is the insurance provider for all Alabama Power's employees and retired personnel. So let me tie this in. Starting in 2018, when Twinkle received her first EDU PAC donation in her race for lieutenant governor, Alabama Power rates have increased yearly. 2023 saw the most significant jump as bills rose an average of $22.81 per household. To make sure you're following, Commissioner Kavanaugh is receiving donations from a political action committee that is headed by an Alabama Power executive, which is funded by a company that provides insurance to all of its employers. This directly links the commissioner's campaign funds to Alabama Power, which is supposed to have no involvement in PSC races. If only that were the end of the story. That's not the half of it. The treasurer of EDUPAC is Carl Jamison. Who is Carl Jamison? Well, for starters, he sits on the Alabama Seaport Authority. On their website, what is the number one cargo export they have listed? Coal. And the first article on their website is about how much coal is exported from their port each year. The Public Service Commissioners never miss an opportunity to discuss how much they protect the coal industry. Along with coal, the other thing mentioned on the Seaport Authority website is their close access to the state's railroad systems. Another thing regulated by the Alabama Public Service Commission. Now, if this information is all I had, it would be a lot, but I'm just getting started. Not only is Carl Jamison sitting on the Port Authority board, but he also is a former president of the Alabama Business Council and is still on that board. He also is a member of the West Alabama Chamber of Commerce. When I examined who sat on that board of directors, the name of one member stuck out in particular. That is the owner of Express Employment Professionals, Elizabeth Beaker, wife of Chris Beaker, son of Public Service Commissioner Chip Beaker. This directly links Alabama Power and the Business Council to Commissioner Twinkle Cavanaugh and Chip Beaker. So is money being funneled by Alabama Power and the Business Council of Alabama through Viva Healthcare to EDUPAC to Twinkle Cavanaugh? Is she being bribed with campaign donations in exchange for rate increases? Is this not what Governor Sigmund went to prison for? Commissioner Cavanaugh, you owe us an explanation.
I remember reading that piece and thinking, well, isn't that just business as usual here in Alabama, one of the most corrupt states in the union?
And that it is. And
it is.
And I mean, and there, and you know, and I mean, there it is, right there in front of you. So, if you got elected, what would be your first thing to do as PSC president?
Well, if I was running, which I'm not, the very first thing that I would do is I would be cleaning house of some of these people on my staff, and replacements would be vetted and verified that they had no attachments whatsoever to Alabama Power or any of the other utility companies. I would make sure that they were not lobbyists. Then I would move on to making all of the hearings that have been closed for 40-something years. They would become open hearings to the public. And they would certainly be held more than once a year, or whatever it is that they're doing. Then I would move on to get rid of that solar tax and make sure that net metering was done at a fair market value for everyone. And I would be pushing them to offer incentives. That's where I would start. Where I'd go after that, I'm not sure. It would depend upon what I found out during the rest of this stuff.
Oh, I'm sure it would be like peeling an onion, the worst,
Oh, absolutely it would be. Absolutely it would be.
What if you ran again, what would you do different? Is there, as far as conducting your campaign?
Well, part of the reason I wasn't able to campaign as much as I would have liked to is that I have an elderly mother, and she's going on 93, and she has a lot of health issues that have started up, having to do with her heart. And now we're looking at a heart valve replacement surgery and stuff for her.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, it's really taken over the last however long it's been taking a lot of time wading through doctors and pushing for answers and stuff. So, but anyway, I would certainly start campaigning earlier and fundraising earlier, and traveling around the state as much as I could and talking to different groups. I don't know if you noticed, but when during the general election, when the vote totals started coming in.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, the very first one that came in had me at 51%.
I do recall that.
Yeah. And of course it just went down from there, which, there I have a lot of questions about that too. But anyway, so, and yeah, I would certainly be making my rounds and talking with people, especially lower income communities, and seeing what I could do to help them get better services. And, a lot of this is not just, it doesn't just sit at the PSC's lap. There's all kinds of other agencies that are involved, like ADEM, and then you have to deal with the EPA sometimes and stuff. But I would be doing everything that I could to ensure that these people were getting the assistance that they needed. Like right now, there's something going on over in, God, my brain just went blank. It has to do with the water and sewer services over around, not Dothan. Help me out here. I can't think of the name of the town. It's where our esteemed governor's from.
It's Enterprise?
No, it's kind of west of Selma. Anyway, they're instead of following this plan that was submitted to them from I think it was the University of South Alabama, where they had a large study done by several of their departments there. And what they were recommending were these very small systems that could handle, each one could handle a certain number of households. So instead of like going in and revamping and doing this huge sewer system and excuse me, water processing and all of that, you would have smaller systems and they'd be more efficient in handling the water and wastewater and stuff for these areas, especially given the soil in those areas. And it was a significant decrease in the cost of this. But what have they done? They've decided that no, they're going to put in 20-something miles of culvert and pipes to ship all this wastewater over to this other town, which for some reason I'm blanking on the name of. And it's going to cost like a crazy amount of millions of dollars to do this. And ADEM is all in on it and stuff. It's crazy. And it's like, that's not, I don't consider that to be a good stewardship of money. People's tax funds and stuff. That's just not, it's not right. People that you elect to office, in my opinion, they have a certain fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayer because that money's coming from them. But instead, they just want to, keep raising our taxes and blowing it on stuff that's really not useful and is going to fall apart in a few years and create more problems. And it's just
what really bothers me, and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
okay.
We have a lieutenant governor, Will Ainsworth, who blocked a $650 tax rebate that would have went to the citizens, got it knocked down to about $150. Now he's bragging because he got our grocery tax cut from 4 cents to 2 cents. Now, how long is that going to take you to actually save some money off?
You're not.
I mean, my life.
You're absolutely not. You're not going to see anything, any kind of improvement in your purchase of your groceries at all, because that's just at the state level. Although this bill supposedly encourages counties and municipalities to reduce their rates, they don't have to. So, and it's not even like 4 cents immediately. It's 1 cent a year kind of thing. So they're not losing anything.
What is that really going to help the average citizen? Oh, I spend $100 on groceries, so I save $2. I mean, what that was the most ridiculous thing. But he blocks a $650 tax credit that could have went to buy somebody new school clothes.
Right.
just just something off the top of my head like that. But no, I mean this
And
guy is, and he did endorse Odin and Beaker in the runoff, and we will
yeah.
remember that.
Well, and the other thing is that the 650 was nothing. I believe the original amount that was being bantered around was probably more like 1,500.
And it should have been, because we just signed the largest budget increase in Alabama history. We have more tax
Right,
revenue than we've ever had.
right, right. And people, here's the other thing: people are still complaining about the price of gas and stuff. Yet they voted for that gas increase without looking at the bill and seeing all the other things that were attached to it. It's not just the gas. Up went the cost of the registration on your car. And oh, guess what? If you got a hybrid vehicle, you get charged even more. If you got an electric vehicle, you got a fee and a tax fee, a tag fee. Um, they're just, they're not taking the time to keep these people in line. They're just believing whatever the media puts out, buying it, saying, oh no, we got to stick with our Republican values. Oh no, we got to stick with the Democrats. And it's like, no, these people they are taking you for every penny that they possibly can. Some of it goes in their pockets, some of it goes to their friends, and it's all about staying in power. So
And you got to
come
say,
election,
I support this amendment, and I'm fighting the Biden agenda, and you'll get elected every time.
absolutely. And that's just it. I mean, they're, behind the scenes, they're all buddy with each other, going to parties together, hanging out down at Epstein's Island or whatever. And and then they get on camera and they're lying about each other, disrespecting each other and stuff. And no, that's not. And this is the problem with a two-party system. Our founding fathers absolutely abhorred the idea of having a two-party system. They absolutely did, because they saw, from not only from their past, from over in England and stuff, they could see what was happening or could happen in the future. And here we've let it happen.
I mean, that was his farewell address. He warned of it.
Exactly.
So now for the $65,000 question. What did you think of Commissioner Kavanaugh's tweet about being a conservative, protecting of women's right,
Okay.
or excuse me,
Yeah. Okay.
stopping abortion? What
Yeah.
was your thoughts on that?
Okay, so the very first thing you have to ask yourself is, what does that have to do with her job, the office that she's running for? Public Service Commission doesn't have anything to do with those things. The second thing is that if you're savvy on strategy and tactics and stuff, she's putting those things in place so that all of these conservative Christians and Republicans, oh yeah, we got to stick with Twinkle because she's going to make a run for something else in 26.
I think that's a very good analysis right there. I also have another take on it too.
Oh yeah,
her throwing this stuff out this early and her having signed up, I think she is running scared. I was told for some sources that last race, even though she wasn't running, that they threw out enough stuff that that she could be damaged, and with the right candidate, she would be in trouble. I mean, why else would you be throwing this stuff out, a year and a half or 9 months before she even was on the ticket?
Right.
With
and this is, so she's going to start making her moves leading into the primary to kind of build herself up and stuff in case anybody decides to run against her. At this point, we haven't heard or even had any whispers or whatever if there's going to be any Democrats or whatever run against her. You just never know. But I have a feeling that there's going to be some opposition in the primaries for her.
I've heard, and we can talk after we cut filming, talk about some of that, stuff that I've heard. This has been a good interview. I think that's all questions I have for you. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Well, I just honestly, I think, people really need to wake up and pay attention to what their government is doing to them and how they're using the system, to keep themselves and their buddies in power. There are too many people that are believing what the media is throwing out there. And I get it, because we're all busy with our daily lives, and, we go to work and do the grind and come home. You just want to rest and relax and not have to worry about the rest of the world. But the whole thing is that if you don't start paying attention, pretty soon you're not even going to have that time to spend with your family. Something else is going to come up and everything's going to come crashing down around us. So people need to just wake up. And you are doing a fabulous job, and I think you need to stay on top of it. Of course, be careful. If you get too close, there's no telling. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and I'll tell you something about that too
yeah.
when we get up there. But
Oh,
yeah,
I can imagine.
I'm trying
And
to spread the truth, and I just want people to know
yeah,
and believe in these people. I want to
yeah.
take on. I just want to do that. But
Well,
um,
and one of the other things, people need to start questioning their representatives about their refusing to debate their opponents. Where is that coming from? Is that you personally? Is that the party? And why not? Are you so afraid that of competition that you're? Yeah, it's just
if you run
it's
against
insane.
the establishment has got their people, and if you run against an incumbent, they're going to dump all kind of money to defeat you.
Sure. I bet my opponent just about fell out of his chair when he saw those first returns coming in.
Oh, I'm sure he did. I mean, I was actually cheering myself too when they came in. I was like, man, I was like, because I was like, in my heart and heart of hearts, I was hoping that a perfect storm had developed, that there was enough pissed off people about them raising our rates 3 days after they
Yeah.
secured the election, that they were going to go out, and there with no
Yeah.
Democrat being on the ballot. I thought, hey, maybe I can convince these people to do this. And I threw everything I had at them. But you know what? Last time I had no following. When I started this, I didn't have one member to my website. I didn't have one person that read me. And by the time it was over with, 15,000 people had read. And so that's not going to be the case in these next coming elections. They're going to have somebody that's really going to take form. But hey, it was great having you on. I appreciate that. And
Sure.
come back on.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. And, and like I said, we'll talk in just a second. But yeah, this was a great talk, and I'll have to get you back on, talk to the PSC some more, another time.
Okay, sure.
Thanks a lot.
I'd be glad to come back on and talk to you sometime, and maybe next time I'll actually show you my face.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I understand.